decided to bring you down here to my Cassandra Clare bookshelf so we can discuss a very important topic. How to read Cassandra Clare books, in my opinion. I'm a massive Cassandra Clare fan. She is my favorite author pretty much ever, and I fell in love with these series in 2014 after seeing the movie, which is kind of ironic. I watched the movie while I was away on holidays and fell in love with all of the character dynamics, thought it was such a good movie. I was 14. And then came back and needed to read these books. That was my origin story with the Mortal Instruments, the Shadowhunters universe. First, I'm going to introduce you to some of the main series. The thing about Cassandra Clare is that she is a writing machine. Up until a few years ago, she was outputting like 2 books a year, all to do with the Shadowhunter Chronicles. The Shadowhunter Chronicles spans, I think, about 20 books. I believe there's always people who want to kind of get into the series, want to know what it's about, but are overwhelmed by how much moving parts there are and they don't know where to start. This video is for you guys. And I basically just love to talk about Cassandra Clare, and so I wanted to make this video. We have the Mortal Instruments. This is the series that started it all. There are 6 books in the Mortal Instruments. Here's what these kind of look like. They have the matching spines that you saw there. This is probably the series you've heard of or have seen before. How you can identify them is they are the City of blank. So we have City of Bones, City of Ashes, City of blah blah blah, and blah blah blah. These were written between 2007 and 2014, so they do span a bit of time. Also, these are YA. Cassandra Clare started as a YA author. She has expanded further into adult fantasy, is the Sword Catcher one, the red there, and then that blue up top. Horizontal, those are adult fantasy, but these are YA and they feel like YA. They're also still a fun reread, just saying. These books are actually set in 2007 in real life time past, but in the book, years didn't pass. So they are, I think, set mostly in 2007, maybe bleed into next year. So that's the Mortal Instruments. The next series we have is the Infernal Devices, and there are 3 books in this series. I only have this one. Most of my Cassandra Clare books are actually in my parents' house, because I did not transfer them all when I was going to college. Bear with me with my little selection that I have to show you. This is actually kind of like a prequel series to the Mortal Instruments. You can tell these are the Infernal Devices by the word clockwork. All of these are Clockwork blank. This is Clockwork Angel, there's Clockwork Prince, and Clockwork Princess. That's the 3 of them. These books are actually set in 1878. You really see Cassandra Clare get to play around with like Victorian England. It is super fun. Think like Bridgerton, but with angels and demons and all the rest. There's all the ball gowns and the values of the time, I suppose. It is actually set mostly in London, and there actually are pretty identifiable landmarks from this book in London. Cassandra Clare did great research. I've been to multiple places referenced in this book, so that was also really fun. These books were actually written 2010 to 2013, so there was actually a bit of overlap between the writing of the Mortal Instruments and the Infernal Devices, which is why it can kind of get a bit blurry what way to go about them. Next, we have the Dark Artifices, and there are 3 books in this series. Unfortunately, I do not have them physically with me here, so you're just gonna have to bear with me. There are 3 books, however, these are like the longest Cassandra Clare books ever, but in my opinion, I think they are some of her best. These 3 books are incredible. You can kind of distinguish them from her other books. They kind of have a royal tie in the name. So the first book is called Lady Midnight. Second is Lord of Shadows. Next is Queen of Air and Darkness. These books are a sequel series to the Mortal Instruments. So we kind of had the Infernal Devices as the prequel, Mortal Instruments in the middle, and then Dark Artifices as the sequel series. And we are following different characters from the main ones in the Mortal Instruments. So you kind of move on with the book. The Dark Artifices are set in 2012 and they're actually set in LA, which I have never been to. So I don't know if there are certain landmarks and stuff that are as obvious in those books, but maybe if I ever get to LA, we'll see. These books were written between 2016 and 2018. It's starting to creep closer to like now. Next, we have the Last Hours trilogy. So of course it has 3 books. These books are all called Chain of Blank. So here I have the first one, Chain of Gold. The Chain of Blank connection comes from Great Expectations, which Cassandra Clare has claimed to both adore and she took heavy inspiration from, which I read Great Expectations because she spoke about it so much. And yeah, I can really feel it. The inspiration is heavy, but it's also done really well. So the Miss Havisham, Estella, Pip thing that's going on there is very much represented in the Last Hours series if you've read Great Expectations. And if you love it, this is a great series to get in on. I also want to show you. Let's get into the actual information. These are set in 1903. So this is a prequel to the Mortal Instruments, but a sequel to the Infernal Devices. So see where this is getting tricky if you're unsure what's going on. These were actually written from 2020 to about 2023, hence why I could also get them signed because I became an adult and I had my own money to finally spend on expensive Cassandra Clare stuff. The next series, incomplete by the way, that I'm going to talk about are the Eldest Curses. So far there are 2 books in this series, but there is going to be 3. We do not know when the 3rd one will actually come out, so just be aware of that. The Eldest Curses, you can kind of tell it's one of the Eldest Curses because it's to do with color. So the first book is The Red Scrolls of Magic, the second book is The Lost Book of the White. And the 3rd one, I believe, is something about the Black Book of the Undead. I could be making that up. I could have read it somewhere incorrect. But yeah, it's the 3 colors. I think black is definitely the last book anyway. These were started in 2019 and obviously until question mark because we're not actually sure when the next one will come out. I believe the last one will probably come out probably like 2030. I fully believe that she is going to release a different trilogy that's in the works that we don't know much about yet before releasing Black Book of the Undead or whatever it's called. Also, the end of the 2nd one really gave us kind of like hints, but also something to think about when it's coming to this new trilogy that's not out yet, and don't worry about that yet. The Eldest Curses is set in a range of years. The first one is set in 2007, the next one is set in 2010, and the 3rd one, Cassandra only knows when the 3rd one is set, so I can't actually give you information there. And it is set kind of in also a range of places. In the first one, some characters are literally just world hopping. There's a lot going on in these 2 books, and I'm actually very excited for the 3rd one. Here's the little timeline graphic I made of when they're set and how you can identify each book. And then to just kind of like round it out, we have a whole selection of collections of short stories about different things. If there's ever something, even as a seasoned Mortal Instruments Shadowhunters universe reader, there's ever something you're like, wait, where did that come from? You gotta just read one of the short stories. It's in a short story somewhere buried, or it's in that short story book you read in 2014 that you didn't touch again. There's like an offhand comment about something and now that's a bigger thing. That happens all the time, and to even experts it can get a bit unwieldy. But I'm going to give you what I believe is probably the most important short story collections and when to read them. I'm going to mention here and now that there's also a Kickstarter running currently, which I've reviewed a little bit on this channel, where we are getting 4 books. One is The Secrets of Blackthorn Hall. If you don't want to buy that book, it is available on Cassandra Clare's Tumblr. And then Notable Shadowhunters and Denizens of the Downworld is also one of the books that is already out, but it was kind of redesigned for this Kickstarter. 2 more books are coming. Careful of books, 4 novellas. At least one is set in the Shadowhunter world. It continues the tale of a character who many have been curious about. I bet you can guess. And then there's a collection of short stories, 10 short stories, Better in Black, that's what it's called. And that's all about love and a load of the Shadowhunter couples. The Kickstarter is no longer live, I don't think, like new pledges and stuff, but they might come out in paperback version in the future, depending on publishing stuff, I don't know. As I also mentioned, there's The Wicked Powers, is a new trilogy that's coming that is a sequel series to the Dark Artifices, so they will be like the newest stuff. They're potentially going to be the end of the Shadowhunters. Obviously the book's not out yet, so that can't be a spoiler. Cassandra Clare has said that basically stuff is gonna happen in these books that changes the world of Shadowhunters forever. And it's going to be the natural end of the Shadowhunter Chronicles. So when it gets to like 2030 and those come out, don't talk to me because I will be a broken human. Let's actually start and get into the order of reading these books that are actually published. The first book you should read is City of Bones. It is the first book in the Mortal Instruments. You should then read City of Ashes, City of Glass, City of Fallen Angels, City of Lost Souls. Those are the first 5 Shadowhunter books. They are from the Mortal Instruments. This is where I say you stop and you leave the last one there. And this is where I recommend picking up the Infernal Devices. Obviously Clockwork Angel, Clockwork Prince, Clockwork Princess. That's the order, 1, 2, 3. You should read all of the Infernal Devices before going back to City of Heavenly Fire, which is the last one in the Mortal Instruments series. Next, I recommend The Bane Chronicles, which is a set of short stories all focused around Magnus Bane, who is a character in the Shadowhunters universe. This character is immortal. It spans a lot of years. After that, I recommend Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. Shadowhunter Academy, that's what this is. It's a Shadowhunter Academy. I'm training, clearly, to be a Shadowhunter. Don't tell my secret. This book is centered around the Shadowhunter Academy, particularly with one character, no spoilies, but it's this character learning about the history of the Academy, and it's really in here that we actually get the first looks at characters from the past that we're not already really familiar with. That's kind of vague, but you get a look at some strong personalities in those short stories. Once you've tackled that, I recommend going into the Dark Artifices and just reading them in their entirety. Honestly, they are fantastic, and you just start with the first one, second, third. After that, it is Ghosts of the Shadow Market. Ghosts of the Shadow Market is a group of short stories all to do with the Shadow Market, and again, you kind of follow one character through time, going to various Shadow Markets. Doesn't make much sense to someone who hasn't read the books, but just trust me, read that after Dark Artifices. It kind of fits nicely after that. Next is when you should break out the Eldest Curses and go for Red Scrolls and the Book of the White. Obviously the third one isn't out yet, but if it was, I'll leave that until probably last. Right now it's not out, so you just need to read the 2 Eldest Curses. And finally, you should read the 3 Chain ofs, The Last Hours. And that actually brings us up to 20 books. I'll pop that up on the screen if you want to screenshot or pay attention to that list. That is the exact order I recommend them. I really recommend these books. I do think that they were really suited to me as a teenager. They were perfect. 2014 me reading these was like right book, right time. So maybe if you're an adult fantasy reader going into them, I don't know if you'll adore it as much and if it'll impact you as much as it did me as a young teenager. I still do think they stand the test of time. Cassandra Clare's writing style, she has just a fantastic way with words. Yeah, it clicks with my brain so well. I am obsessed with Cassandra Clare. If the bookshelf isn't enough. I hope this has helped you decide if you want to go into it, or if you are already a Cassandra Clare fan, if you liked this walk down memory lane with me. Also, if you disagree and if you think should be read in a different order, let me know. I'd be curious how other people read them. That's really interesting. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, here's another one that YouTube thinks you may enjoy, and I will see you next time.